Thank you so much. I have a few presentations, a few slides. I hope I can get it on the screen.
Yes, you'll get it.
Thank you very much. Today, very quickly, we're looking at the challenges in our education. And without much ado, because all of us are very busy people, and I think that one thing I have come to realize is that time is money, and we need to manage it effectively. And that is one of the gaps in our education. One of the major gaps in our education is our lack of understanding of time management and the value of time. Most of us, we did a lot of analysis in school. How many of us did time analysis? How many of us did time analysis? Time analysis is a business concept that allows you to understand the economic value of time. And that is why you will find that most engineers, when it comes to time management, are very lame. And so, to show you that my education has helped me to understand time analysis and time management, we'll do 20 minutes. I'll take questions for 5 minutes. And I'm sure that at the end of it all, our time will have been well spent. By way of introduction, my name is Tokumbo Ajana. I studied engineering, and fortunately for me, I've gone beyond engineering into management, and that allows me to have a bit of understanding of what we're talking about today. So today we're looking at engineering education curriculum, scorecard, prospects and potentials. Now, engineering education, what does it mean? What does it mean? What is engineering? All of us know that it's the body of knowledge that deposits onto students, onto the practitioner, the fundamentals of science and applied science, including mathematics, and affords you in the physical realm to have an understanding of what to do, how to do, and to manage it. What does that tell you? It tells you that the fundamentals of engineering is science. All of the engineering, like my brother now, the Nigerian section president, all the engineering that we know is built upon the study of mathematics and elementary science. So you are an engineer today because you have an understanding of fundamental science. And to give us a clue, we'll be looking at a content that has 15. A few of them are not particularly important. Content, focus, background, definition of terms, gap in the engineering education, criteria for durable engineering education, skills and competencies required, engineering evolution, a statement of the problem, the gap itself, engineering education in Nigeria, the scorecard, potentials, prospects, outcome-based engineering education, and then I'll take it out. Next slide, please. What is our focus? The purpose of this discussion is to provide a platform for the appraisal of civil engineering education with a view to having a clear understanding of the history, challenges, potentials, and the possibilities therein, particularly at a time like this when the marketplace has become totally strong. Engineers, the engineering market has reduced, it has shrunk. In the US today, a graduate of civil engineering has a 25% chance of getting a job. In Britain, it is lesser. In South Africa, it is lesser. Why? Because nobody is looking for a civil engineer per se anymore. People are now looking for a multidisciplinary engineer. Somebody that can bridge the gap between engineering, mechanical, and some IT. It is a one-job market. So if you have a degree in engineering, it is a take-off point. It is not a landing point. And that must be our focus. Today in Nigeria, what we do is that you get a degree in civil engineering, you carry your degree in your pocket and you begin to look for work. And they are limited. Let me just say this very quickly as a digression, and it is particularly important for us to know that the potential for you getting a job as a civil engineer, stand-alone qualification, is a lot less than that of an accountant who has a degree or a master's in project management. Most of the big five, let me be very clear, the big five construction companies in Nigeria are led by project managers without engineering background. So you must begin to know what the challenges are. So our focus is to put us in the right perspective. What is wrong with our engineering education? Can somebody please tell me? Can I get somebody to help us? What is wrong with our engineering education? Any ideas? Any ideas? Yes, I'm sure.
I'll tell you things about that. First, our education system and curriculum. And secondly, the act of learning students.
The learning process. Thank you, sir. Fundamentally, in terms of concepts, ideas, theory, and policy, there is nothing fundamentally wrong with our education. Everything that is wrong with our education is delivery, environment. What is the environment in which engineering education is delivered? How is it delivered? Who is the person delivering it? Who is the person receiving the education? What is the mode of transmittal? Next slide, please. Background. Global engineering philosophies and models studied prior to the development of the Malaysian model, because the Malaysian model is a model that is very similar to our own, because they had a problem and they came to the understanding and the realities that we have reached today, that we have a problem, and they decided to take a second look, have shown their dynamic and far-sighted approaches. However, total adaptation may be unfavorable for the progress and the sustainability of our nation, because we have a separate identity from England. What works in England, if you bring it to Nigeria, hook, line, and sinker might not work. So there is a need for adaptation. There's a need for us to take a look at what we study. Most of us are brilliant in physics, chemistry, and mathematics. Further maths, brilliant. But do you know that most engineers are poor and will remain poor because we lack basic communication skills? We're not good communicators. The average engineer will speak in a room and you are put off by the grammar, horrible tenses. And yet, it is not about an A1 in English, but an ability to connect and communicate. And you must own it. If you are not a good communicator, you will find it difficult to pitch yourself. How do you sell yourself? How do you let people know that you know what you know? Our biggest challenge is that we're brilliant, we're intelligent when it comes to the subject, but we cannot communicate that intellectual capacity. Next slide, please. Definitions. The term engineering itself has a much more recent etymology. Etymology is the history of the evolution of a word. And to cut the long story short, it means a very intelligent discovery or arrangement in the Greek. Which means that you as an engineer, you belong to a class of people whose definition and language states that you are intelligent. So why do we have a problem? If you have perchance schooled abroad after your basic engineering education in Nigeria, I'll give you an example of myself. The first time I entered an engineering laboratory in a university outside Nigeria, I did not know where I was. I saw engineering laboratory at the door, but it did not look like an engineering laboratory. I was confused. And yet, I went to school abroad with a master's from Nigeria. So, what do you think will happen? And I left university in Nigeria at a time that the equipment in the university laboratories were still working. Engineer Azam is here. The laboratories in the universities were still working. My chairman, you can attest to it.
Yes, sir.
But if you go to Nigerian schools right now, everything is done on the blackboard. You read it in your book or on the internet. So when you get into an atmosphere of practice, you are confused. Next slide, please. So that we can save time. Because all of these definitions you will get and you can read up. Next slide, please. For durable engineering education, there are 5 basic criteria. Scientific strength, professional competencies. You must be multi-skilled. Permit me to speak a bit about this. This provides the engineer with the capacity to work in different engineering fields and function in multidisciplinary work teams. I have noticed in all my years of practice and without pride, over 30 years, that most engineers like to work alone. They are very comfortable. You will do the design, you will do the detailing, you will do the construction, you become a foreman and a very poor foreman. Because basic and fundamental education, who we're talking about, tells you that division of labor brings more wealth to you. But when you say, I can calculate, I can design, I can detail, I will do it myself on the field, what that does for you is that it helps you to celebrate poverty. And that's why we must wake up as engineers. Our training must be such that we must be able to function effectively in multidisciplinary work teams. Well-respected and potential industry leader. One of the gaps in engineering today in Nigeria is leadership. You go to the NSC, you go to NICE, you go to all of our institutions and you see that leadership is lacking. People are occupying positions, but there are so many dogs that are occupying the position of lions. And we must have understanding about leadership for us to function effectively, morally and ethically sound. I don't want to talk about this because this is a topic that has been well discussed in Lagos chapter. The moral and ethical capacity of engineers, civil engineers, is below 12. And until we change it, the substance of our education will continue to be a problem. Next slide, please. I mentioned 5. There is another set of 6 skills and competencies that are required. And this one gives you a freedom to emphasize on scientific or professional skills and competencies or balancing both components. Appropriate emphasis on global and strategic skills. Adequate industrial and practical skills and incorporating humanistic skills also allows completeness in the training. This model recommends that 30% of the curriculum must be for non-engineering purposes. Soft skills. How do you dress? How do you walk? How do you carry yourself? How do you speak? Most engineers don't have it. I conducted an interview a few months ago and I laughed. Because basically engineers came in dressed, looking like somebody that went to borrow all of what they were wearing. Why? Lack of soft skills. How do engineers speak? What is the volume that you speak in an interview, in a conversation? All of these soft skills makes you marketable. It doesn't matter what you know. How well do you communicate what you know? It doesn't matter what you can do. How well do you market? How well do you communicate what you know? Next slide, please. Go to the next slide. I've already run through this. Engineering evolution. This one is a very simple thing. It makes us understand that engineering is dynamic. And as such, if engineering is dynamic, the study, the education for engineers too must be dynamic. Why did I put this here? I put this here because when I left the University of Lagos, the notes that I used in 1986, I spoke with one of my mentees, and he brought out his notes, and they were the same word for word. 30 years after. 30 years after, the notes were the same. The only thing that was different was the handwriting. So I told him, I could as well have given you my notes, I don't need to go to class. Meanwhile, engineering has moved on. But engineering education in Nigeria has stayed stagnant. Next slide, please. Next slide. The gap. The Nigerian tertiary institutions are faced with enormous challenges in terms of general conduct of engineering education programs, which has failed to equip students with necessary skills to cope with the challenges of the world of work. Mark this: entrepreneurship, leadership, and the modern day society. The modern day society demands that as an engineer, you won't just tell me that I'm going to build your house with 70 million naira. You must give me a breakdown, a defensible breakdown of how you have arrived at the 70 million naira. Why must it be 70 million naira? Why are you using this process? Unfortunately, most engineers will tell you, that's me. Why should I give a client a breakdown? Listen to me. Can I prophesy? Thank you. In the next 5 years, engineers who don't know how to do complete work breakdown will be out of job. Complete work breakdown. WBD. Today, I was talking about BIM. How many of us know that the next step after BIM is a complete work breakdown? Quantity of iron, quantity of cement, not concrete, quantity of aggregates, labor cost, it gives you, and you must furnish your client with it, because that is what will guide the project cost. I'm building a church somewhere, and one of my artisans told me, I told him, how much would it cost you to do the fittings for the plumbing? And he told me, okay, I'm going to collect 550,000 naira. And I told him, oh, fantastic. Give me your breakdown. He said, at my level. At my level, I don't give breakdowns. I tell you, and you do it. And I told him, even if you are using juju, it cannot work. The same mindset is what engineers have, that have made engineering business for the accountants, the lawyers, the quantity surveyors, people who are good at giving commercial information. You are good at giving technical information, so they will employ you. So you always get a job. And because you have a job, you can provide food on your wife on your table. But you cannot make wealth, because they make wealth. A system that produces academically brilliant, demotivated, unfocused, and almost hopeless engineers who do not have the training nor courage to be creative. Because those who rule a business are those who are creative. Next slide, please. Can we move on? Move on, please. There's a statement in the first slide I said move on. And that slide says, for most of us, if we assess all the tertiary institutions in Nigeria teaching engineering, they are going to withdraw all our certificates. And it's a fact. There is a housing gap in Nigeria as of 2008 that was 14 million houses. 2008, 14 million houses. And it has widened by between 15 and 20% year on year. If you do the calculation, it will go to around 34 million houses required. How many engineers are in real estate? Building houses commercially. How many engineers run commercially viable real estate development companies? All of us were building for the real estate developers. We are the lackeys that create wealth for them. What is the scorecard? Number one, please put your hands together for yourself and celebrate yourself. Highly intelligent operation. Were brilliant. We know divide the earth like nothing else. Hardworking and very resilient students. Nigerians will read with lantern. They will read at the bus stop with street lights. They will read the traffic lights. But there is a problem. Our education has a poor governance structure. Because there is no government policy that is aligned with the UNESCO expectations for education. No government in Nigeria, and please correct me, that has ever provided the necessary budgetary allocation for education at any point, year on year. And we are saying that we have an educational problem. Poor governance structure. How long have the universities been on strike in the last 10 years? If you put all together, the university have in the last 10 years, according to the Nigerian Labour Congress, the university have been on strike for more than 4 years. In the last 10 years, put all of you together. How do you want to get the best kind of students? Stagnant system, degrading infrastructure. I told you, I said when I left the University of Lagos, the same notes that I had was the same notes that I saw with the students 30 years after. Stagnation. A system that is not good. A chaotic system. An underfunded system. Societal indiscipline and poor family structure. Lack of responsibility and control. Politicizing education. Restive community. Strikes. Student protests. That is our score. That is where we are. Next slide, please. Prospects, the power of planning. The one thing that we have failed to do is that we have failed to plan. And there is that saying that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Abraham Lincoln said, if I had 8 hours to chop down a tree, I will spend 6 hours sharpening my axe. Most of us, our axe is blunt. And what does that mean? We have not planned. Next slide, please. What are the potentials, the way forward? Number one, education advocacy. The time has come for us to put education back on the pride of place. Today, education is no longer a substance of value. Everybody is talking about money, money, and money. And it doesn't matter how you get it. And until we put education back on the front corner, until we go back to the days of the Western region, the Eastern region, the days of the one and only Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, when education was it and only it, education first, education second, education third, nothing else, Nigeria will continue to suffer our progress. Because listen to me, all the money that all the Yahoo boys in Nigeria have made, please put it down, all the money that all the Yahoo boys in Nigeria have made is not up to 1% of what Mark Zuckerberg has made. Hello, somebody. All the Yahoo boys in Nigeria sum all their money together, all the money that they have stolen is not up to 1% of Mark Zuckerberg's money. It's not up to 1% of Bill Gates' money. It's not up to 1% of Elon Musk's money. And all of this is money that has been made by intellectual capacity, education. So please, when they tell you that education does not pay, tell them that they are the most foolish people. Because trust me, education still pays. Nigeria might not be celebrating it right now, but the time will come when the only thing, the only currency that will make you somebody in Nigeria will be education. Engineers must not fail to be there. Increased funding. UNESCO has rightly given us a target for education funding. And until we get to that level, education will always be a struggle. Most states will build roads, the same road that you go and burn tires on asphaltic roads and destroy them. The same road that lack of education will make you dig through. The same road that becomes a highway to hell because you are using uneducated drivers. If you put money in education, the little that you are able to do will be maximized. Systemic improvement. All of us must take ownership. Structural changes, STEM education. We all need to go back to STEM. And if you don't go back to STEM, engineering education cannot flourish. STEM is the basis. STEM is the building blocks upon which engineering education must be built. And finally, with respect to potentials, we must begin to look at OBEs. Next slide, please. OBE is outcome-based education. And outcome-based education is clear. It is a case where you know what you want to achieve before you set out to educate. In the first instance, JAMB, we're all celebrating that JAMB is doing JAMB and I laugh. When did JAMB ever say that in 2029 we're going to admit 200,000 mechanical engineers, 120,000 civil engineers, 15,000 electrical engineers? That is outcome based. Because you know the number of engineers that you want to admit. You know by reason of data how many will graduate in 4 years, how many will graduate in 5 years. You know how many you are going to produce as structural engineers, as water engineers. You know what kind of capacities you are going to give them. Because in the next 20 years, Nigeria must migrate from an oil-based economy to a human capital-based economy. Because, listen to me, instead of digging down vertically into the ground, we must begin to dig between your ears. What is in your brain is what is going to be bringing money to Nigeria. The same way in India, their biggest export commodity today is human capacity. The same way in China. Most of us were talking about Chinese goods. Listen, Chinese goods are not selling as much as Chinese entrepreneurs and Chinese intellectual capacity. And that is where we must go. 30 years ago in China, they said to themselves, we are going to take over in this sector. And they marked 5 different sectors. And they began to train people. And by reason of statistics, they knew that out of every 5 that was trained in ICT, 2 will make it to above average level. 1 might go to excellent level. And they deliberately train them outcome-based. What outcomes do we want to create in Nigeria? Today we just train engineers for the training of engineers. Is there an outcome that we're actually working towards? What kind of training? So if we're going to move away from petrochemicals to the area of human capacity development and engineering values, how many civil engineers do we want in the next 30 years? How many do we have now? What is their competence level? How do we increase their competence level? That is the kind of education that we must begin to work towards. And it's not about passing exams now. It is about a capacity to demonstrate what you know. Some of the best engineering countries in the world don't actually take engineering exams. I don't know if you know. No exams at all. What they do is that they demonstrate competence. Academic, intuitive, leadership, entrepreneurial, and demonstrative. You go out there and do it. And until we get to that level, we will keep struggling. All of us can write every equation. Most of the most difficult equations in engineering and mathematics have been solved by Nigerians. W.F. Kumi, Enoch Adeboye, name them. All of them got their dissertations for their PhD from solving equations that have been abandoned for close to 40 years. What value has it brought to our engineering? Thank you very much. I'll take questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Facilitator has just given us a very good in-depth. So it is now time for questions for him to answer for us. I think we'll entertain 5 questions. So let's start from you. Oh, before I go into that, please, I want to announce the presence of our past national president, in person of our national chairman, in person of engineer our evergreen. He has always been there for us, he's still there for us, and he will continue to be there for us when I have left the stage. Welcome, sir. Thank you very much.
I want to thank you, lecturer and my Oga, for the well fact. Thank you so much. God will continue to enrich your wisdom and you will continue to grow in knowledge. First of all, sir, actually, my question has to do with this issue of engineers working for, having to work for people in other professions who have taken over, you see, the reason I want to ask this question is because I have one similar experience just this weekend where a lawyer almost took, as I'm speaking, I'm not yet sure if he has completed it for me, almost taking a job that is meant for a civil engineer sir, I was invited to a site, just a bare site, that the client actually is this person who does not know anything, but he has a lawyer who has assisted him to acquire. He has a lawyer who has assisted him to acquire that property, that landed property. Now he invited me. After inviting the lawyer, and I told him, fine, good, you got this plan. The first thing to do is, before you say, okay, engineer, please, I want a 2-story building here. How much is it going to cost? I said, okay, you have to take it to the building. There's no way I can give you a value of how much is going to complete this building if I don't have the drawing and the structural. First of all, I've asked you, what do you have in mind? You say you have in mind is 2-story building that can take about 8 flats or 12 flats. That's it. That is, you say you want 4. I said, no, you can't get approval with that. So let's do it 2 so that it can be 6. You said, no, I should look beyond that. I said, okay, fine. You now said somebody has already given you a cost for a building that you are not even sure of what you want to do yet. And when I decided to dig further, I found out that it is that lawyer who has helped him to acquire the land. Now, where the lawyer now failed is, the man now said, okay, fine, I learned that you also have a way of securing approval, getting approval for building construction. Because Lagos State now, there's nothing that can be done with the act. So that you can't escape that though. And the best way to start is what I'm trying to do to you. One, we're going to do a test, a soil test. The report is what is going to guide us to know what this soil, this site can take. You say you want 3-story. What if your money will not be able to afford it by the time the result of the test brings out a pile foundation? You see, all this I was trying to tell him as a professional person, but he was much more interested in what the other man. He now said, okay, fine. What are those things that is required to get approval? I said, fine. The architectural drawing, the soil investigation report, the survey, then the architectural drawing, which will give us the structural drawing. Then if it's going beyond 2 floors, you are going to need M&E drawing. And I said, okay, how much is it going to cost? He said, this man that has been asking me questions, and I'm trying to give him some technical background. That we can't just give a figure. Okay, let me just give him this one this time around. Okay, Oga, can you get like 500,000 naira for us to just start doing something? If soil test, if the test is going to be poor, it's going to be more than that. But if we look at what has happened in the area and we use that to judge, I think the 500 should be able to get those drawings. 500K. When my lawyer has already told me I can do it for 250,000 naira. That was what I said. Oga, please. Give it to him. Give it to your lawyer to do it. Give you the he has even, you said he has already given you the value for the building. For me, I can't give you value for building unless I get the drawing, the structural drawing, and everything. In essence, that is one aspect of my question. How do we get back what belongs to us as a professional person and a professional body? That is one. Then the second one is these people, for example, the accountant and some other people, they've taken over the real estate. I was talking to somebody maybe on Monday, and he owns vast land around the way, and we were discussing about how to acquire some property and how to do it. Then when I find out, I dug into the background of this person. He's also a lawyer. But what he has done is put money into that land when it was, and that's one of those things some of us, most of us lack in engineering. Even when we make money, we tend to marry more wives, we tend to travel abroad for vacation. I was hearing one of these pastors one day, I'm sorry for taking our time. I heard one of these pastors talking one of these days. He said he became a billionaire today from real estate. He said the first money he made in his life, he went to Mowe, Ifakosai, and bought some acres of land. That was the name of Matthew Ashimolu. He said that was what made him a billionaire today. that then he bought the acres of land for one amount of money, and as we speak he is selling that a plot is over times 300 of how much he bought an acre there, and he has so many plots to sell, and he said till date he still selling the plots. Now my question is, how do we as engineers now, probably we are able to get back what belongs to us, how do we get money to finance this thing? There are projects, people will invite you for developer, developer, go to Bariga, go to Mushi, they will invite you, they will call you developer. Yes, but how do we get money to finance this thing? I also want you to help us verify that aspect.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All of us did engineering management. How many of us attended the classes? No, you know that it's so easy for us now, 20, 25 years, 30 years after graduation, to say there's something wrong with us. How many of us attended engineering economics, engineering management class? Please raise your hand. You attended your engineering analysis class the same way. That's the problem. Because all of these things that we're talking about, if you take your curriculum, you will see it in your engineering management, engineering economics. Number one. Number two, how many universities in Nigeria take entrepreneurship as a course for engineering students? How many universities? Now, and it started because Covenant started the School of Entrepreneurship. So it's not because, and they're doing the same entrepreneurship course, all of these courses. But there is engineering entrepreneurship. How many of us have ever bothered to go online on YouTube and take a course, Coursera, cheap courses? How many of us have taken a course in engineering entrepreneurship, infrastructure funding, engineering business? I know that Coursera has over 1,000 courses on entrepreneurship and engineering businesses. How many of us have taken those courses? You see, what you do not know, you cannot possess. Our problem is that our education has too many gaps. The average lawyer takes his business law as important as any other law course, and you cannot understand business law if you do not understand business. So it takes the fundamentals of business, migrates to business law, and by the time he's graduating, you spend 5 years, the guy spends, I don't know how many years he spent, I'm not a lawyer, I'm sorry. And the biggest problem is that the guy knows so much more than you in those 30% non-engineering things that I mentioned. And that is the foundation for prosperity. And you can, like I said, what you do not know, you cannot possess. You don't know the value. Most of us, I get to see that it is changing now, and I thank God for it. Most of us leave university, and the only thing we're doing is when we leave university, but we're thinking of Shell, we're thinking of small project, we're looking at all the big companies. I want to go to Jesus project. We leave the university and we're looking for a job. The average lawyer, have you noticed, they leave the university and they are looking for a business. Can you get the understanding? There is a fundamental difference